Hello everyone, it's Rebecca here and welcome to another video. In today's video I'm bringing you another recap because I'm on the ball with my recaps now, kind of, sort of, not really. I've just read quite a few things that I would like to share with you all. So, I have 2 physical reads here and I also have 2 ebook reads, and I'm just going to double check my Goodreads and see what I have and have not actually read, because I'm a fool and don't keep up with these things. Plus, on my Goodreads, I actually do write reviews most of the time, so it'll refresh my memory on my thoughts and things, because obviously I have thoughts on my books that I've read. This is going really badly. Okay, so I've just checked my Goodreads and it turns out I've read a hell of a lot more than I thought I had, so I'm just going to go through them all. I only have 2 of the physical copies here, but the rest are all on digital format, or I've got rid of the books. So you're just going to have to bear with me while I just talk at you, basically. So, I will leave all the details either down below or in a separate blog post, hopefully both. But let's just go. So, on Goodreads, it says the earliest book I've read that I haven't summarised for you guys is Flawed by Cecilia Ahern. I remember getting this as an ARC from NetGalley and I was over the moon because it was my first auto approval from HarperCollins, I believe it was, and I was just like, oh my god, I've been auto approved. But that's not the point. This book is about a girl who lives in a society where you have to follow these rules. If you don't follow certain rules, if you don't follow the rules, basically you get punished. And there are 5 ways you can get punished, depending on what you've done and what you're prosecuted for. There are 5 ways you can be burned or flawed, so to speak. So if you've done something impure and you get caught, you then become flawed. There are no let-offs, so to speak. This follows Celeste, and it is Celeste, isn't it? The next book I have to recap for you all is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Now this one I read on a recommendation of Vanessa from Wonderness, and she wasn't the only one that was telling me that I really need to read this book. And I'd never read Patrick Ness before, and I remember telling her when we saw it in the bookshop, I was like, ha, Ness, and she picked it up, and then I picked it up on the back of that, and all I know is that she really loved it. So I finally picked it up, I read it in about an hour, and I cried like a baby. It was so moving and so touching and heartwarming to read about this incident from another person's perspective, and I'll just see if I can grab my review, because I would like to point out that my voice isn't going croaky because I'm getting emotional about it, although I wish it was. It's because I've just filmed some videos, so my voice is going a little croaky. Okay, so in A Monster Calls we follow a boy called Connor, who's your typical teenage boy, except his mum has an illness, and this illness is slowly taking over her life and Connor's life and the family around them. For the most part, it's just mainly him and his mum and then his gran. So we see how it affects Connor and his family from Connor's perspective. Because of his mum's illness, he's experiencing nightmares, which is only fair for like everybody who experiences what his mum has to experience and the family associated with that. So he experiences these nightmares, and then one night the being from the nightmare is actually at the foot of his bed, I believe, and it doesn't go away, like it just stays there. So he starts talking to this shadow, and this shadow is helping him to let go of all his built up emotions that he feels he can't share around his mum because of his illness, because of her illness rather, not his illness. It's an amazing read. You see how this boy, who's struggling to be a teenage boy enough as it is, come to terms with his mother's illness and how to deal with that. Is just, it's an amazing read, and I cried like a baby, and I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. It was phenomenal, and I definitely recommend you all go read it. I think for me, with it being an introduction for me anyway to Patrick Ness, I have such high expectations for the rest of his books, which I hope doesn't spoil them all, because everything is different that you read from an author. So like, I just don't want to go into all of his books expecting A Monster Calls, because it's not going to be A Monster Calls. Like, I have The Rest of Us Just Live Here and the Chaos Walking trilogy to read, and I know that they are so different from A Monster Calls, and hopefully I'll enjoy them as much as I love this book. So I'll let you all know, but I definitely recommend A Monster Calls, and it was a definite 5 out of 5 star read for me. The next one I have to share with you all is Evo Nation by KJ Chapman. I got it right this time. and she so very kindly sent me a copy of both the first and the second in the Evo Nation series. So thank you so much to KJ Chapman. I will be getting to Evo Shift very soon, but I don't know why I haven't gotten to it so far. Because on the back of this book, this book was phenomenal. I haven't actually reviewed this on my blog because I wanted to do a joint review for them. Like, I wanted to post one after the other, and I did actually, yeah. I actually did review it on Goodreads. So I received this in exchange for an honest review, and I gave it 4 stars out of 5. This one, an issue I really had with this book was that it started to slow its pace. It was really fast paced and it was fantastic, and then it slowly started to lose its pace a little bit in the middle, which was totally understandable, and I felt like some of the book, it could have been split into 2 parts, but that would leave like 150 pages per book, which wouldn't really be worthy of a book. So I totally understand why the author has left it as one book. And other than that, the pace picked back up again. It was fantastic. The character developments were really interesting, and I really enjoyed the character developments, apart from one character in particular. And I did actually contact the author when I told her I'd finished it and my review was on Goodreads. I did actually contact her and say, why did this character develop in this way? Why? I don't understand. And she was so nice about it, and she said, you know, it was the hardest thing for me to write, and you can totally understand why, coming from a reader perspective and as somebody who's wanting to move into the idea of being an author, you can totally understand why these things have to happen. It's just so soul destroying, and I'm so pleased that she felt the same way when she was writing it, never mind as a reader. With this being a dystopian YA, I did expect a little bit of a love interest, and I did think the love interest was actually quite good. It wasn't so insta-lovey as we see in the majority of YA novels that I have not read, but it was really good that it was not insta-lovey, and it built up over the book. She was very cautious. She was very much like me as a teenager. She was really cautious and didn't want to rush straight into things, and I totally understand that, and that's great that an author has actually portrayed that. So overall, I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars, not 4, but it could easily have moved up to a 4, and I cannot wait to get to Evo Shift. So thank you very much, KJ Chapman, for sending me a copy of both of those. The next one I have to tell you about was Last Light, and this one was by CJ Lyons. This one was very kindly sent to me by the author and the publication team behind it, so thank you so much to those for sending me this book. I finally got round to it and I absolutely loved it. It's not my typical read, it's something that intrigues me but I never think I'll finish, so I really enjoyed it. Okay, so Last Light follows Lucy, who's a former FBI agent who has a prosthetic leg. She lost her leg in an incident through work while she was on duty, and we see her as she has to cope with the idea that she's starting back at work, which she's really looking forward to, but it's an office-based job which she's not looking forward to. So we see her as she goes to become a sort of a task manager for this, like, overseeing this group called the Beacon Group, I think that's what they're called, and it's a group of agents who try to crack cold cases. Now, throughout this book, a lot of it reminded me of such TV programmes like Cold Case and Law and Order and all those kind of things, and I really enjoyed it. It was a fantastic read. The only thing I had, I think, was because I kept putting it down and picked it up, I was struggling to keep up with what I was reading, but that was my own fault more than anything else. So throughout this book we see Lucy, who is so in the book Lucy decides that she's going to take this sort of isolated case and take it out on the field. She didn't really need to go out on the field, but herself and another team member decide that this is what they want to do. So next thing you know, they're in Texas trying to solve a 29-year-old murder case, and we follow them as they try and solve this murder, and it's really good read. It's hilarious in parts. It's so heartwarming to read that she isn't put off by any of her injuries, and we see perspectives from a lot of different characters, which is really nice to see as well. So I was really pleased with this, and I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I was updating my status on my Goodreads account, and I did call it about 3 or 4 updates in. I was so far through the book and I was like, I know who did it, I cracked the case, and I was sat there and I was thinking, I could totally do this, and then I realised that if I was to do that as a career, I'd have to go out and actually do something with my life, and I didn't really decide I wanted to do that anymore. So overall, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I would definitely recommend it, and thank you so much to the author for sending me that book. Everything I've read is like definitely recommend so far. You're gonna get sick of me saying that. Okay, so the next 2 I have to tell you about are graphic novels. I delved into them for the first time in June, and I really enjoyed it. It was a different experience. It wasn't blowing me out the water, so to speak. I think I enjoyed it because it was quick and it was fast paced and it was done within like an hour tops for both books. So these are Sweet Tooth. These are Sweet Tooth volumes 1 and volume 2, and I read these in my library one afternoon, and it took me about an hour to read the both of them, and they were okay. They follow a boy who is born with antlers, so he's part human, part deer, and he lives in the woods with his dad. His mum died when she was giving birth to him, I believe, and we see this relationship between a father and a son who are very close, but at the same time isolated, because the father doesn't want the son to go out into the real world, because apparently there's a burning hell there, which isn't strictly true. It's just that the world has evolved with these half humans, half animals, and doesn't get along with the idea that half human, half animal exists. There are places that believe that it's fine, but we mainly follow this boy who believes that he wants to go out and see the world, and he needs to get to this safe place, which he does through Jeopard, I think he's called. Is it Jeopard? So overall, in these graphic novels, I rated Sweet Tooth Volume 1 3 stars, and the second one I rated 4 stars, and that was because the first one felt like it was lacking something for me, and it really frustrated me that it was lacking something because of the way everyone goes on about graphic novels. A lot of people go on about them as if they're the best thing since sliced bread, but for me they weren't. They just weren't doing it for me. And I thought the second one, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because the story was so much better than the first one. We got to hear from the soldier's perspective, which was really nice, whilst also going back to our main character from the first book, the first novel, and seeing how he copes with his current situation. So overall, I thought it wasn't that fantastic, but it was still something I was like quite intrigued about, and I was just a little bit disappointed that because the first one was only 3 stars and then the second one was 4 stars, I was hoping the third one would get a little bit better, but they didn't actually have it at my library, so I need to go back and see if they've got the third one to see if it does actually do that. So this next one I read last week, or whenever it was I was at Vanessa's, and this one is Saga Volume 1, and this one she really wanted me to read. She was like, read it, just read it. So I took it from her and read it whilst lying on her bedroom floor, because why not? So I read that in about half an hour as well. It was okay. I wasn't really blown away by it. I was just sort of left as in a bit of a what do I do now, not like in a good way or a bad way. It was a bit like, well, was that it? Do I read the second one? Do I just sit and let it mull over in my head? Do I just forget about it? I just did not know how to feel. And I think that was because I went into it with such high expectations, because not only did Vanessa love it, but a lot of people I know love it. And I was like, don't know what to feel. I think I'd probably have to read it again and then read the second one straight away to see how I was feeling about it. I did like the idea that it was narrated by the baby. That I did like, and I did appreciate it, and the whole way through I just had this thought running through my head that it was actually Archer and Lana from the TV show Archer. I just had this impression that it was them two and their baby, because I think I was on a bit of a slump of Archer at that point, so that really related to that. And I think overall I think I would have gave it 3.5 to 4 stars maybe, because the graphics were really well done. They were well drawn, they were really detailed. The graphics were really detailed, and I did enjoy looking at the graphics. That sounds really wrong because there's a woman breastfeeding on the front of the book. But I thought the graphics were really well done, and overall I gave it 3.5 to 4 stars, and I can't wait to see what the second one's like, to see if it ups my expectations a little bit. The next one I have is another book, and that is The Lonnie by Andrew Michael Hurley, I want to say. And this one is in my bag to get rid of, which is over there, and it's at the bottom of the bag, so I'm not going to get it out to show you. But this one was a finished read. recently, and I'll leave the link to the blog post down below. But overall I gave this one 3 stars. It was very slow paced for me, and if you like books that are slow burners and, you know, all come together sort of very, very slowly, then you will really enjoy it. But unfortunately for me, it was a little bit too slow paced. I did sort of understand why it was slow paced, but it kind of annoyed me because I was like, oh come on, just get to the point. A little bit like a lot of people will be doing when they watch my video, but you know. So overall I gave that one 3 out of 5 stars, and if you like slow paced books, it's a definite recommend for you, but for me it just wasn't happening. The last 2 I have are my physical books. And the first one is The Sword That Saves by Ambrose Merrill. It's a Sam Stone novel, and I got sent this from his agent, I believe, or his publicist, in exchange for an honest review, so thank you very, very much for that, Vicky. This was the first physical hug I ever got, so I was on a high, and I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm probably going to keep it. In this book we follow Sam, who is split up from his sisters, and they're all in care, but he's split up from them, and they keep getting moved because he keeps tracking them down, and he's not supposed to do that unsupervised. So his sisters are in a really nice foster caring environment, and his is just like, they don't really bother with him a little bit. And he's on his way to track his sisters down one day, and he comes across an Aikido master, and we see Sam as he goes through the idea of using Aikido, and he learns about Aikido. So there we have it. That is my recap number 2. I had so much to share with you, and I completely forgot about half the books I read. Oh my goodness, I'm such an idiot. So thank you all for watching, and if you've read any of those books, let me know down below, and the majority of them do have blog posts or Goodreads links, so I'll leave the links to those down below as well. And that's it. If you've read any of them, I would like to start a discussion with you, and I don't really know what else to say. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all soon with another video. Bye!